With the Content Portal, there are several ways a user can manage authentication. Within the application, you can use the built-in authentication mechanism to register or create new users. You can also make use of other third-party authentication, such as CAS, and identity providers that support SAML 2.0, like Azure AD. There are no limitations to how many users you can create. In the Control Center, if you're using the Jadu front-end registration, you can choose the information you wish to capture from the user. If you're using CAS, you can apply your CAS settings. If you're using a SAML authentication, you can configure your settings through the Control Center. Whenever a user is created in the Content Portal, a user ID will be associated with that user. If using a third-party authentication, it's possible to obtain that user's username and other attributes associated with that user. Once you have an account in your chosen provider, if you sign in, you can now see your Sign In Register button has changed to request access to your invoices. An on-base autofill keyword set is being used to store additional data about the portal user. This button is conditionally shown based on the data held about the user, specifically because there is currently no record for the user in that autofill keyword set. So we're prompting them to request access, which will initiate a process resulting in a record being created for them. Because there is no record of this user in OnBase, we are asking the user to request access to view their information. We can provide information about who we are and what our business is. We can then review the information supplied and submit the form. This will now create a document in OnBase initiating a workflow process to verify that the user should be able to access invoices for their organization. If approved, a record for that portal user can be added to the autofill keyword set with any data that needs to be stored against that user. When the request for viewing your invoices came in, a decision was made to either approve or deny that request. When that request was approved, it then created the entry in the autofill keyword set against my Jadu user ID 87. If you remember, this is the ID that is set by Jadu against my user account. In Jadu, you can choose which autofill keyword set will contain the extended Jadu user data. So, as in OnBase we are using Jadu-user data, we have selected the Jadu-user data autofill keyword set. This feature will allow us to tailor the content on the portal to the signed-in user's attributes. It will also allow us to filter data held in custom queries so that we can ensure that the signed-in user has access only to the information that they're meant to. Additionally, it provides the power to do lookups into OnBase to affect the user's journey while they are completing forms. So, for example, if we sign in again as that same user, my button has changed from request access to be able to view your invoices. I can search for a specific invoice, and this will look up a custom query and bring back any invoices with a matching invoice number that I have permission to see. I can then download this invoice to view and review. So let's take a look at how we filter custom queries within Jadu. We can choose any custom query that's available to us in OnBase, and then filter the information from that query. On the left-hand side, we can select elements from the custom query, such as invoice number. We can then compare that to other elements, such as static values, user entry, or data held against the signed-in user. In our example, we prompted the user for an invoice number. Additionally, as we want to limit access to ensure that we only show vendor-specific documents, we have a second filter to compare the vendor number in the custom query to the vendor number for the signed-in user. Now let's take a look at how we can tailor content. Within the homepage designer, we can have content display whenever a user is signed out. We also have a Hyland OnBase authenticated content widget. If a user is signed in, we will check if they are in the OnBase autofill keyword set. In this example, we will show the content below, which will show the link to view our invoices. If a keyword set is not present, we would not show this information. We would create a different type of content for those users in a different widget. We can get more sophisticated with this. For example, we could look for specific keyword values held against the user and display content based on whether they're empty or not. or whether they contain a specific value, or don't contain a specific value. This will enable us to show content that is personalized to the person who is signed in. When building forms within Jadu, you have the ability to query on-base autofill keyword sets. In this example, we want to get the signed-in user's vendor number from the autofill keyword set. To do this, we need to identify which autofill keyword set contains the vendor number. Once we've done that, we now need to confirm that we want to return the vendor number. And now we're going to check against the signed-in user internal ID. When this logic runs, we're going to use the signed-in user's ID to query the autofill keyword set to bring back the vendor number held against that user. Now that we have the vendor number for the signed-in user, there's no reason why we couldn't query a vendor autofill keyword set to bring back further information about the vendor, since we now have the vendor number associated